The parliamentary deadlock may not have ended yet, but the government is doing all it can to ensure that the new GST constitutional bill is ready for introduction and passage as and when it can be tabled in the Rajya Sabha. The government has today approved the amendment incorporating the suggestions made by the select panel on the GST. The big change is the amendment in the compensation clause, which now guarantees states an assured compensation for any revenue loss incurred to 5 years after the rollout of the GST. Joining us now to discuss all of this and more, Congress leader Randeep Singh Surjewala, member of the GST Select Panel and Rajya Sabha MP Rajiv Chandrasekhar, and also our very own Sapna Das. Mr. Surjewala, coming to you first. The Cabinet has now cleared the amendment. This was, of course, the big change that the Select Panel had asked for, which was the compensation clause to be committed to state governments for a period of 5 years. Will you now allow this bill to go through in this session of Parliament?
Shireen, the truth is that GST bill as is being proposed by this government is pitted with compromises, exclusions and exceptions, thereby nullifying the very purpose of GST. Congress has given a dissent note in consultation with other political parties, as also various economists, and that dissent note is appended to the report of the committee. We will continue to ensure that unless and until those reservations which actually nullify the quest for a common GST are taken care of at the Parliament level, the bill in its current form is not passed, because it will do more harm than good to the country's economy.
So, Mr. Surjewala, you're saying the Congress will not change its mind and you will not support the passage of the bill in the Rajya Sabha, if at all the Rajya Sabha is allowed to function?
Congress is the original author of the GST bill. We mooted the proposal. It is the likes of Srimati Sushma Swaraj and Shri Arun Jaitley, both of whom were leaders of opposition leading the BJP, who did not permit a GST bill to be passed. So we stand in favor of a GST for this country in order for the country's growth and a common market.
Okay, Mr. Surjewala, hang in there. Let me go across to Rajiv Chandrasekhar. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, you've obviously heard the Congress's arguments in the Select Panel. The Congress has, of course, been demanding a pure version of the GST, and nobody will argue with the economic logic of that. But as you have pointed out previously to us, that this was the best that could be done in the current situation. Does your gut tell you that the GST is now closer to reality? Can we expect the passage in the monsoon session? What is your thought?
No, my instinct is that I think we are one step closer. I don't do crystal ball gazing, Shireen. I'm only hoping that the Congress, you can't argue with what the Congress is saying, but I think they are ignoring the fact that this GST is clearly a first step in the evolution of a national market and a national sales tax, so goods and services tax. So I'm hoping that they would at the point of crunch, they would come and support the bill. There is no disputing what they are saying, that this is a compromise. It's a compromise not on ideals or values. It's a compromise between states and center. And there are various governments and 10 years of consultation that have gone into this. And I'm hoping that they don't nitpick at this stage and go ahead and support what is obviously a very, very important first step in the creation of a national market.
Right. Rajiv, we understand that at this point in time, the big amendment that has, of course, been moved by the government is on Section 19, which is basically to get the centre to commit to states for a period of 5 years on any revenue loss once the GST comes into place. Would you be disappointed if some of the other suggestions made by the Select Panel are not considered?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry to sound so pragmatic, and I'm not as theoretical. I'm not an economist, but I understand how important it is for us to get going in the creation of this, common market and to break down trade barriers between states. And so for that, I believe we should be prepared to live with some compromises around the edges on the purest definition of GST. Yes, I accept the contention that this is not the purest definition, but I think the fact that we have to make this first step in what is clearly the big transformation on indirect taxation is something that we should not ignore and leave to debating matches. We must make that step. We must move forward.
Right. Mr. Surjewala, the amendments that you moved have not been accepted. The cabinet has now cleared the one amendment that the government, or at least the one amendment that we know the government intends to move. Are you likely to support the GST bill, sir? Straightforward question. Will you allow the Rajya Sabha to function? If the bill is to be tabled, will you support it or not?
We want a true GST bill to come. Mr. Modi, in his own arrogance of power, is not permitting GST bill to come in the shape that is beneficial for the country's economy and growth. If you are going to have a GST bill that is pitted with compromises, exclusions and exceptions, which will nullify the very purpose of GST, it is of irrelevance. And that is why we are bringing in those amendments.
Okay, Mr. Surjewala, if I can ask you this, till Saturday it seemed fairly certain that it was curtains as far as the GST bill was concerned, but today there seems to be a ray of hope. We understand, and this is of course source-based information, that some sort of back-channel conversation has taken place between the Congress party and the government. So can we assume that there is hope for the GST bill in the monsoon session? A clear answer, please.
I completely reject suggestions of any back-channel negotiation. GST should be brought in national interest, in the interest of economy and growth of this country. And we, Congress, would ensure that a true GST bill, which will take into account all those concerns which are not of the Congress party, but also of the economists and various states, all the stakeholders, are taken care of and become part and parcel of the GST bill. Mr. Modi and his government should also not stand on false ego and do something that is in national interest and in the interest of our economy and growth.
Okay, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, I'm not going to ask you to crystal ball gaze, but on the back of the comments that you're hearing from Mr. Surjewala and the fact that most regional parties with large representation in the Rajya Sabha, for instance the TMC, the Biju Janata Dal, are on board as far as the GST bill is concerned, would you think that it's perhaps naive to assume that the GST bill is a done deal in the monsoon session?
No, nothing in Delhi is a done deal till it's a done deal, Shri. That's the first rule of Delhi. So I wouldn't start betting on this to be a sure thing. But I am prepared to go stick my neck out and say that at the end of the day, I think everybody behind the political rhetoric understand the need to get the GST bill passed because there is an April 2016 deadline. There is a lot of work that still needs to be done to make this a reality. The gap between what we have in the GST bill with Section 19 amendment is a significant move forward. It assures states of the fundamental issue of revenue loss. It's a very, very, very big step that the government has taken. I am very hopeful that at the end of the day, reason, pragmatism and logic, and at the end of the day, doing good by the country will cut through the political rhetoric.
Well, 24 hours is a long time in politics, and let's see where this heads. But Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Randeep Singh Surjewala, appreciate you joining us here with your take on the GST bill. Let's go across now to Sapna. Sapna, GST was not the only thing that the cabinet took up and cleared today. It also approved the setting up of the National Infrastructure Investment Fund, as well as the Alternate Investment Fund. Of course, the NIIF had been proposed by the Finance Minister in the budget. Take us through the details of both.
Well, the basic purpose here is to, have funds to kickstart the infrastructure sector, including the stalled projects. So the proposal here is of an equity capital of around 20,000 crores that's supposed to come in, the size of the pool. But what we are given to understand is that a small portion of that will be put in by the government in terms of an equity capital. The remaining money is expected to come in from other private sector participants, and there can be even global players like sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, the like. In terms of an actual practical participatory interest, what we understand is that as of now, nobody has really come forward because, the structure has yet to be set up. So today the cabinet has taken the first move, it has taken the first step. Most likely next week we're expecting a bigger announcement on this front, or rather the next set of announcements, the rules, the regulations. What we're also given to understand is that the government shareholding in the fund could be around 49%. The remaining 51% could actually be given to the private sector players, including the global players. So the rules and regulations for that will have to be worked out. there will be a fund manager to take care of these funds, and very critical would be the fact that how much is the equity capital the government would be putting in as of now, because almost half the financial year would be over by the time the
20,000 of course was the allocated
working.
amount. Sapna, hang in there. Let's bring in Vinayak Chatterjee of Feedback Infra for a quick comment. Vinayak, appreciate you joining us. The cabinet has approved the National Investment in Infrastructure Fund, which was of course promised in the budget. Your first reaction?
Shireen, I am extremely happy because this NIIF, the National Infrastructure and Investment Fund, has a great ability to catalyze the growth in the infrastructure sector and improve the mood and do all the things which we are waiting for. A few quick points. One, the 20,000 crores was set aside by the budget. Since the budget has been cleared by Parliament, I take it that the 20,000 crores seed capital is automatically sanctioned. The budget speech also mentioned that it has the capacity to leverage itself 10 times, which means that the size of the fund can easily be 200,000 crores. This can impact both public expenditure in infrastructure, and it can also provide the government seed capital for PPPs. More importantly, there are many countries who are willing to take a bet on and invest in India's infrastructure growth. And this is really the result of our Prime Minister Modi's very successful international outreach. And therefore, these countries could possibly be also persuaded to invest in the NIIF, which is a kind of a sovereign fund dedicated to Indian infrastructure. But it provides an opportunity and a vehicle for many other friendly countries to invest and participate in leveraging this fund upwards. So net-net, it is a major breakthrough for the Indian infrastructure sector, and I'm sure it will make us all happy.
You expect participation from sovereign wealth funds. Vinayak, we're still waiting for the specifics from the government as far as the NIIF structure is concerned. But besides professionally being run and having a professional board, what other specifics would you like to see the government put in place for the NIIF? What's on your wish list?
No, the first item is that it should be professional. I hope that there are monies outside the government of India which will come, so investors will demand professionalism. I would not like it dedicated only for public expenditure. I would also like it to be a source of seed capital for PPPs where the government can co-invest with the private sector. So these are my initial wish lists, and I would wish the government leverages it very quickly, 9 or 10 times, and this should really be the financial test of Prime Minister Modi's very successful international outreach program.
All right, Vinayak, appreciate you joining us with a quick reaction there. We are, of course, awaiting details from the government on the structure of the NIIF. Let's now move on to Dalal Street.